Many fans of The Lord of the Rings have probably wondered, why didn't Gandalf simply face Sauron one-on-one and end the war? After all, they are both Maiar, spirits of the same order of power. It would seem logical to assume that their abilities were comparable, meaning the Grey Pilgrim might have had a chance at victory. And yet, throughout the entire story, Gandalf never seeks personal combat. He does not travel to Mordor to challenge the Dark Lord, does not engage him in a magical duel, and never even approaches him directly. This looks like a deliberate avoidance of confrontation. But why? The reasons lie in Tolkien's own lore. Some conclusions are supported by the texts, others are logical deductions. Reason. 1. The limits of a mortal body. The Istari, the 5 Maiar sent to Middle-earth, did not merely take on human form, they were literally incarnated into mortal bodies. They experienced fatigue, hunger, thirst, and aging, and their magical power was limited. Sauron, on the other hand, was never bound by such restrictions. Even after being defeated and losing his physical form, he could return as long as his spirit endured and the ring existed. This happened after the downfall of Númenor and the War of the Last Alliance. Gandalf, by contrast, only returned after his death in battle with the Balrog through the direct intervention of Eru himself. Saruman, upon death, was cast out and dispersed. For Gandalf, losing a duel with Sauron would mean not just a temporary setback, but the end of his mission. Reason 2. Sauron was always the stronger. Although both Gandalf and Sauron were Maiar, their innate power was not the same. The Silmarillion describes a hierarchy even among the Valar. Melkor was stronger than all others combined, Manwë surpassed the rest, and Aula had his own place in the order. The same can be assumed for the Maiar. Sauron, a pupil of Aula, was already considered one of the mightiest spirits in the First Age. He surpassed not only lesser Maiar, such as the Great Eagles, but also many of his equals in rank. Olorin, Gandalf, had different talents, but in raw magical power, he lagged behind Sauron even before coming to Middle-earth. Reason 3. The power of the ring. In the One Ring, Sauron had invested a vast portion of his own power, enhancing it further. This made him nearly unmatched. With the ring, he not only restored his lost strength, but also gained dominion over the bearers of the other rings, Nazgûl, dwarves, and even elves. No other Maiar, Gandalf included, possessed such an artifact. With the ring, Sauron was at the peak of his abilities, and any attempt to confront him directly would have been close to guaranteed suicide. Reason 4. Morgoth's Legacy. From his master Morgoth, Sauron inherited not only knowledge but also an entire infrastructure of evil. Morgoth left behind armies of orcs, trolls, wargs, and entire nations of men who had served darkness for generations. These forces obeyed Sauron almost automatically. He continued his master's work, and it was natural for them to follow him. Gandalf, even with authority among the free peoples, had to persuade, lead, and unite them. He could not simply snap his fingers and summon an army willing to die for him. Reason 5. Different kinds of power. The main difference was that Gandalf was not a warlord but an inspirer. His task was to give hope, guide, teach, and unite. Sauron acted as a commander and conqueror, ruling and dominating directly. Sauron had been hardened in war since Morgoth's days, participating in sieges, devising military strategies, and using magic as a weapon of mass destruction. Gandalf fought when necessary, but always relied on allies and their courage. Reason 6. Gandalf's secret mission. An important point often overlooked. Gandalf was sent to Middle-earth with a very specific mission. His primary goal was not to personally defeat Sauron, but to help the peoples of Middle-earth resist the darkness themselves. Tolkien's letters state explicitly, the Istari were bound by prohibitions. They were not allowed to use their divine power for open dominion over mortals or to lead them as rulers. They had to act as advisors, inspirers, and helpers, not generals issuing orders. This means that even if Gandalf had wanted to duel Sauron, he would have violated the very essence of his mission and perhaps lost the right to remain in Middle-earth. His role was strategic, to destroy the ring, not to measure strength with the Dark Lord. Reason 7. The risk of corruption. Gandalf understood perfectly that a direct clash with Sauron, especially in the presence of the One Ring, was not just a risk of defeat, but of falling under the Dark Lord's control. As Mayor, their wills could battle not only through weapons or spells, but also through inner spiritual force. At the slightest weakness, Gandalf could become Sauron's servant. In the Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf admitted that he feared touching the ring, not because he could not keep it, but because with it he would begin to act for good, until that good turned into a new horror. In battle with Sauron, this danger would have been many times greater. Reason 8. Political consequences. Even if by some miracle Gandalf defeated Sauron in personal combat, the consequences could have been disastrous. Sauron was not a lone operator. His power rested on armies, fear, and a complex hierarchy of control. In the event of his death, someone else could have taken the Dark Lord's place, perhaps someone even more dangerous and unpredictable. Moreover, Sauron's death would not have destroyed his ring. It would remain a source of power that could spark a new war. And the peoples of Middle-earth, weakened by the conflict, might have fallen victim to it. Reason 9. Sauron's unknown powers. Tolkien never fully revealed Sauron's entire arsenal. We know he was a master of illusion, deception, artifact-making, and domination of will. There is reason to believe he possessed abilities no Istar could match, such as directly altering the fabric of Arda, changing the nature of things, or even the essence of beings themselves. For Gandalf, facing such an enemy would be like playing chess against someone who could change the pieces mid-game. Reason 10. The price of victory. Even if Gandalf had been able to win, the cost might have been too high. He knew that a battle with Sauron would require all his strength, possibly even his life. But unlike Sauron, he could not return without Iru's will. If he fell, Middle-earth would be left without one of its most important allies, and the chance of victory could vanish. That is why Gandalf chose a path that might seem less heroic at first glance, but was, in the end, the only right one, destroying the ring, not dueling the Dark Lord. I can also polish this into a more Tolkien-esque narrative style if you want it to sound like an appendix to The Lord of the Rings.